finding love is something pretty much all of us want. Like on the deep human level, we want to find love. And when you frame it, when you start dating, people are like, oh, dating, I don't want to date. But when you talk about finding love, it's hard for people to say, that's not something that's important to me. And the whole point of this book was to show people, even if you've struggled for years and years in this area, even if it feels like nothing's working, or if it feels like what you are trying to find is eluding you, what is a better path to finding love? How do you do love better? And that's what excites me now. And I think that goes that goes deeper than strategies. That gets into like, what's really going on with us? What's going on with me that I keep getting attracted to this kind of person that is chaotic? What's going on with me that I keep chasing these people that aren't really investing in me, or that make me feel really unsure of myself? Why do I find someone more attractive when they don't text me back than when they do? What's going on there? And those have become the fascinating questions for me. And it's not our reality, the one we've experienced our whole life, is really just reality. It's not itself. And I realized more and more in my life where I would just look at people who experienced life differently than me and go, what are they doing or thinking that is different from the way I'm doing it or thinking about it, that means they have a different result? Like, I have a whole chapter in this book called, there's two chapters that live together that are two of my favorite chapters in the book. One is called Never Satisfied, and the other one is called How to Rewire Your Brain. And there's the chapter on Never Satisfied where I talk about the reasons why we keep getting drawn to things that hurt us.
Why do we?
For one, it's what we know. So if something I talk about like a dolphin in captivity, right? Because we're very good. We have a culture right now, self-development wise, that anytime someone's going towards something bad, we say you have a self-worth problem. But it's a bit reductive, because if a dolphin in captivity learns that in order to get fed, it has to do backflips, jump through hoops, and swim up to humans, and then it gets released into the ocean and it starts doing backflips for food in the ocean, or it starts swimming up to fishing boats, we wouldn't say that dolphin has a self-worth problem. We would say the dolphin is just repeating what it learned in the tank. It's just familiar. So a big part of what we're doing is just familiar to us. And it becomes, you know, that classic kind of self-development idea. The race car driver says, you know, Mario Andretti said, if the key to race car driving is don't look at the wall, your car go, your eyes go. And when we realize that whatever we expect of life becomes our wall, it becomes the thing we keep driving into because it is we know. I, you know, tell a story in the book about, I grew up with a childhood that wasn't, you know, like, I worked in a nightclub from the age of 13. So like, it was, my dad owned a nightclub when I was a kid. So that was like, not okay for me to be doing that, but I was doing that. And I used to experience a lot of like, you know, it wasn't like, I don't want anyone picturing like a nice nightclub. It wasn't like a glamorous Vegas style. This was just a grotty, rough club back in a local part of England. And it was rough. And, you know, people were getting fights and they get thrown out in nasty ways. And it put me on edge a lot, especially at a young age. And even in, you know, my own family, I was, you know, interesting family, and, you know, I was around certain things, and it created a kind of hypervigilance in me that really stayed with me. I didn't really lose it. I never really felt safe. So for me, going into a room, I was always scanning for threats. I was always scanning for where's the trouble going to come from. And I remember being out with my two brothers. We were in a little tiny bar in Japan, and my brothers are having a great time. They're just chill. One of them singing like Hey Ya on the karaoke machine and just like belting it out and carefree. And I'm like looking, you know, I'm like hypervigilant. I'm having fun, but I'm also like constantly kind of a little bit on guard. And there was a Western guy who just kept staring at my brother nonstop. And it got to the point where I whole story in my head and went up and confronted the guy. The guy hadn't even done anything yet, but confronted the guy. And instantly it was, like the bartender came around and fine. But I remember my brother saying to me, "What are you doing?" And me going, "What do you mean? What are you doing?" I was like, "Well, you don't understand. This is a whole thing." In my head, it was like the scene had already happened. It's like, no, he was, and then this was going to happen. And I'm thinking to myself, how do my brothers survive when I'm not around? Meanwhile, by the way, my brothers are both bigger than me. One of them's 6'3", the one's 6'2", the other's 6'4", both capable of taking care of themselves. But in my mind, I was like, how are they not constantly getting in trouble when I'm not around? But it's because that, for me, trouble was my wall. And everywhere I would go, I would like look for where's the problem, where's the trouble coming from? And they weren't looking for that.
Yep.
And it's not that trouble's not around. It's not that bad characters aren't around, but they're not focused on them. So those things don't find them. They don't even locking eyes with those things. But I'm the one locking eyes because I'm the one looking for where's the threat.
Vigilant.
Yeah. And the sad part about that, this is the really tragic part, is that I have zero interest in trouble. All I want is a peaceful, lovely time with people I love. That's all I ever want. But there's something so tragic about precipitating the exact thing that you want less than anything, which is a fight, confrontation, aggravation. And when you look at people's love lives, it's the same thing. Everyone has that and keeps crashing into that same wall. I keep dating people that cheat on me. I keep dating people who end up ghosting me. I keep dating people who end up being narcissistic in their tendencies or don't invest in me or take advantage of my good nature. Or you into that wall. And helping people to reprogram themselves away from that, I think, is one of the most important things we can do.
So you're looking for partners that feel familiar, not necessarily partners that feel loving.
Yeah, not ones that will make you happy. Partners that feel comfortable. And comfortable is confused with happiness. It's not. Comfort can be misery. But when you know your way around it, there's something, you at least know the territory.
Yeah.
And I think that this is what when I was coming up, I never used to understand fear of success. I understood fear of failure, but I didn't intuitively understand what was meant by fear of success. And these days, I'm like, it's all just fear of the unknown. It's all just fear of being somewhere you're not comfortable. It's the same thing. I've always had fear of success. I told myself I didn't. Like success isn't something I understand. The truth is, I've always been afraid of success. Anytime I step into a domain that's new to me, where things get a little bigger than I've experienced before, or a little more like, oh God, I immediately get uncomfortable because it's just unexplored terrain. The same way that if you're too far down, that's unexplored terrain as well. You're like, this isn't me. I've never sunk this low before. And you get afraid of that. But it's all just domain you don't know. And I think so much of life is, how can I make what is deeply unfamiliar to me something that becomes home to me? And sit with for long enough that it up. And finding the right kind of love is that you will that there are certain aspects of healthy love. If you've been constantly gravitating towards unhealthy love, or unhealthy attraction, there'll be aspects of it that feel alien to you.
How do you become more comfortable with the alienness?
Well, first, connect with the pain that the other has brought you. I think that's really important, is you don't have to believe something better or more exists for you. You just have to know, I can never do that again. And I always encourage people to say to themselves, what was missing the last time you were with someone in an unhealthy dynamic? What was missing that made you miserable? And you might have been white knuckling it, trying to cling on for dear life, trying to make it work. And telling yourself it was the most important thing in the world and you'd die if you lost it. But when you were in it, what were you missing that also made it hell to be in? And for a lot of people, it's, let's say I never felt safe with this person. Like I constantly was made to feel like I wasn't good enough, that I didn't match up, that this person might be out the door at any minute, or I just constantly felt insecure because they just never up the way I was showing up. When you connect with how bad that made you feel, hold on to that and take that with you, because you don't need self-belief if you have necessity. If it hurt that, if you don't need, if I put flame to your hand right now, you wouldn't need self-belief to take your hand away. I can't, my hand there, it's going to burn. It's the same in love. If in relationships, what has caused you so much pain that you can never be in a situation like that again? That's the starting point. Make change necessary. You don't have to get more confident. Just make it necessary. And the next thing is decide the path that you actually want to be on. And one of the quickest ways to decide the path you want to be on is figure out what was missing last time. Okay, that's going to have to be up there with the most important things I look for next time. No matter how sexy or fun or seductive or impressive or charismatic or whatever it is someone is, if I don't find this quality or this value or this way of that they interact with me, none of that matters. It's all irrelevant. It's worthless without that thing. And you stay with that truth, even when it feels uncomfortable. And also, I believe you have to give your nervous system time to adjust, because it's not, if you take a drug addict and on the day they quit, you ask them to sit and appreciate a sunset, it's going to mean nothing to them. It's going to feel like the most boring thing in the world, because it can't compare. How can the gorgeous beauty, the understated, transcendent, existential, connected, awe-inspiring beauty of a sunset compare to just this crazy high that someone was on yesterday? It's not the same thing. So a huge part of it is telling ourselves, it's not, I can't choose that thing in this thing because it's not the same feeling. It's a different kind of feeling. It's ultimately going to be much better. It's going to bring much more peace, much more happiness to be with a healthy person, to be in a place where you feel safe, to be in a place where you feel truly seen, to feel in a place where you feel at home, to be with someone who accepts you. But for a while, your nervous system might not respond to that because it's so used to the drug or the other thing. And that takes time for your body to adjust.